Welcome to the Up-Level Dairy Podcast. This is the podcast for dairy owners, managers, and their trusted advisors who are seeking their next level of performance, success, and resilience in the dairy farming business. I'm your host, Peggy Coffeen, and it's my mission to bring you the voices and share with you the stories of thought leaders that will help you to take your operation, your teams, and most importantly, yourself to the next level of business, leadership, management, and life. So what if there was just one simple thing that you could do that would build loyalty, get your employees to actually care about their work, and make them want to stay actively engaged on your team for the long haul? Well, there is, and it comes down to two simple words. And Tom Wall is here with us today to share those two simple words and how they have the power to transform your dairy's team and to leave you with an action plan to start today. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. And if you don't know Tom, Tom is actually pretty well known in the industry. He is the dairy coach, and he's been working with dairies throughout the country for over 22 years, helping managers implement and create simple systems that work while training and coaching their employees. Tom's also the creator of People Core, a cloud-based employee management and time clock system that's helping dairy managers communicate and connect with their people, manage all their team's performance in one place, and help reduce costly turnover. And so, Tom, let's talk about this whole concept of employee engagement. And, for our managers and dairy owners that are listening out there, if employee engagement is a struggle for them, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I think everybody would probably agree that on some level there's a lack of engagement. I think what it looks like, maybe the first place is people aren't showing up, or they're showing up late because they just don't maybe care enough, right? The next place that might be the obvious one is the way they just treat the common areas. Guys are just leaving everything messy. And I guess maybe that's just a reality to hiring a bunch of young people most of the time are just not very responsible with their stuff. But where it really starts costing time, money, energy is when people aren't doing their jobs. And you'll see that people are disengaged because they just don't care to follow routines. They don't care to finish the project, to finish the job. It's all these little things they're saying, well, that's missing, that's not done. Because we've got people like, she really cares and does everything. He really cares and everything gets done. And then these people in the middle start drifting out of that full protocol follow through, and then you get right down to the tail end of they barely even do it. So it's that spectrum of disengagement from fully engaged to we're starting to lose people, and it's usually in the protocols where it really gets us.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, Tom, what you're saying is that employee engagement shows up as employees that are coming in late, not showing up to work.
Yeah.
It's showing up as just the way that people are taking care of the environment around them. But you got to tell our listeners here, when you walk onto a dairy and you're doing a culture check, where are the first places you look?
Yeah, this is terrible. But I check the bathroom. Like I'll go to the bathroom because you can quickly see how much people care. The kitchen, the bathroom, the common areas, because nobody's in charge of that, right? Like it's everybody's responsibility to keep these areas nice. And if I don't, and you don't, and since you're not and I'm not, like nobody will take ownership of that unless it's the owner or a manager. This is all right, fine, I'll clean the toilets. But that's where I go. I know it seems crazy to think like that's what, but I want to see right away. I don't have to walk a quarter of a mile to your furthest freestall to see that people don't care. You can literally walk through the kitchen and the bathroom and see what the culture's about.
Yeah.
And that all transfers out to the barns. It really does. When I'm supposed to take care of a fresh cow and I don't put any food or water in front of the feed and water in front of a fresh cow, it starts way before that. And those are the little things people just don't do because they don't seem to care enough, or they're just not engaged in it.
Yeah, and so it's those little things, just even taking care of the work environment, that trickle down into what then shows up as protocol drift.
Absolutely.
And as, not maybe completing a job according to the right way to do it, or not completing it at all.
And not even starting. Much less completed.
Yeah, there's that difference between showing up at a job and showing up ready to work and be part of making something better than when you left it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where a lot of dairy owners and managers struggles, because, we expect people to be as engaged and passionate about doing the right things and a good job as we are, right?
Yeah, when owners see the world through owners' eyes, through the owner's lens, they think kind of everybody has those same glasses to put on and see it, but it doesn't happen. It just won't. There's a few people, hopefully, on every farm that has that, but it's not a norm.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some folks in ownership and management that are listening right now, and they've been able to nod their heads and say, yeah, we've experienced that, where we see little things that aren't being done. We see this protocol drift, and, there's the way of seeing it. There's the stress that it causes on us as, humans. But then there's also a cost, a financial cost to disengaged employees. And how does that show up?
Yeah, well, so you just mentioned the one cost that I don't think we maybe put enough thought into. Like, there's that peace of mind cost. When you're taking this home all the time and checking your phone, afraid of your phone. Like, I've got clients who, when we started working, like, they're afraid of their phone at shift change because they're in the house with the kids and their wife and or with their husband, and they're like, I don't even want to look at my phone because this text, this buzz, this call might ruin my whole night.
Yeah.
So there's that, like, just looming over their head because their employees don't care. But then the other costs, like the financial costs that we're all trying to put a number to about disengagement, hard to do because there's, maybe employee turnover. And I think we're all, have you heard any numbers on what people think about employee turnover in dairies?
Oh,
They're
gosh.
kind of all over the place, aren't they? So, like, some people I talk to, $1,000. Other people, 5,000, 10,000, 15. Like, one of those numbers has got to be right. Okay, so let's just say, I'm going to say 5. So if disengagement causes us more and more turnover, and we're seeing 5,000. If it's stayed a week or two, it's not 5,000, but that's a real dollar amount. And when you look at how many W-2s you send out at the end of the year, do the math. It's expensive. But even if they don't leave, the cost of disengaged employees shows up in your treatment bill, right? Your repair bills, all the different lost quality numbers. Because if people care, when you think about, if I'm a dairy owner thinking about the people on my team that care, they do everything, I'll say right, and do it consistently.
Yeah.
If I think about the people who aren't them, I'm constantly chasing them, trying to get them to do the right thing, and then trying to figure out who did do it. Because we've got, if we had everything there to take care of our calves, we've got the iodine, we've got the straw, we've got all the different vaccinations, all the different treatments, then why are they sick? Right? Something's not getting done. So those dollar amounts, like when we look at those bills, I'd love for somebody to stand up and say, let's talk about that and the real driver. It's disengagement. It's not because we didn't tell, like, the workers know what to do. This is a crazy thing. Over the years, workers would flat out say, we know what we have to do. It's not that nobody told us. It's not like we have no clue. We know what to do. It's now everybody's doing it. And that's coming from the workers. So they know that the team members who are disengaged, who don't care, aren't doing their job the way they're supposed to. The worst thing is when that trickles across everybody and say, well, he's not going to care and not going to do it, and the boss isn't going to do anything about it, then I'm not either. Because it's a lot of work to do it right. And I care to do it right, but if it doesn't mean anything, because nobody seems to care enough to make sure we do it, that starts getting really expensive when the whole team joins the non-doers.
Right. So when it becomes not just a single individual who's disengaged, but it ultimately becomes the culture.
It becomes who we are.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Well, and so the things that you've called out here, Tom, of how disengagement shows up and this cost related, there are probably, like you said, folks out here listening that are like, we've noticed that, we've experienced that. So my question for you, as someone who has set foot on, I can't even imagine how many dairies across the country, had these one-on-one conversations with the worker level, all the way up to ownership and management, and all the way through that chain. The dairies that are doing it right, the ones that have the highest level of engagement, the ones that have the lowest turnover, what sets them apart? What are the few things that they're doing that's different from the ones that aren't?
It starts from the top. And those leaders, those managers, in 2 words, they care. They care. Like, there's a connection with owners and managers with their employees, where the employees actually feel that the managers actually care about them. They see them as people, they treat them as people. It's just people doing work, people working with people. And I know it sounds really soft and like, I don't really like people. I didn't get into animal agriculture to work with people, but you know, we're in the people business. Yeah. And the good managers, the good leaders, they get that. And the employees, they feel that. And the people I've worked with, the men and women who are leading these dairies that are really having success with people, their teams realize, they see, they feel that their boss cares.
Yeah. So then let's back that up into the 2 words that this podcast is all about. Now, you just said 2 words, they care, but those aren't actually
those
the 2 words.
No, those aren't the ones.
No, and I would encourage anyone listening right now to think, like, what's your guess what those 2 words could be? You know, is it thank you? Is it good morning? No. Is it, you know, what could they be? Tom, tell us, what are the 2 magic words?
Yeah, thank you's great. Good morning's great. All that stuff is good. But the 2 words that matter all day long is fix it.
Fix it.
Fix it.
Fix it.
If something's broken and somebody's got to deal with it all day, 12 hours at a time, and then the next shift, same thing, it becomes really long, frustrating day because stuff is broken. So that's why every time I get a chance to get in front of a group, there's always a slide that says fix it, because that hits home right away to the workers who have to do the work. And when you keep things working, their job is easier, and then you're sending a message that you care. Right? Because if I'm working with equipment that doesn't work or tools that don't work or they're not even around, right? I don't think you care. And whether you do or not doesn't matter, because the perception is that you don't. So fix it.
Yeah. And Tom, I think one of the most powerful things that you just said there is that those words resonated at the level of the work, the level of the person most effective, right? And so if there's anything that those of us in any sort of leadership, ownership, management can really pay attention to, it's the words.
Yeah, that's down to the trenches where the work gets done. And if the sentiment down there is like, you care enough to do what matters to them, to make sure things are working for them, they care about what you care about that matters to the business. If I work 12 hours at a farm and all day long, everything that I touch is broken, my day is miserable. Like the night before, the day before, I'm dreading the next day because everything I have to do doesn't work. Or it doesn't work as it should. And I get it. We're the same ones who are breaking it. So that's the reason people don't want to keep fixing it, because it costs money every time. Every time I hop in that skid steer and I smash it into something, like, yeah, we're not going to fix it because you do this every day. But when we change that dynamic and say, look, guys, we're going to take care of things. You got to take care of things, and we're going to fix it, but we can't keep breaking it. And then we change the conversation. Fix it becomes the biggest thing we can do, because one, the guys who do the work, they don't struggle with it. Number 2, every time that they pick something up that's not broken, they have a thought that goes through their head that says, my boss doesn't care. So if the first word is F it, fix it, then we don't have guys saying F it and it's not fixed, right? Because guys are getting so frustrated that nobody cares about the work they do. And realistically, the requests that most workers make of their bosses, the managers, they seem like small little things. Like, look, I got way bigger fish to fry on this farm. Like, you and that one gate that doesn't work. Like, get over it. Okay, fine, but you've got 20 people who have to go through that gate all day long to move cows, or the holding, like just anything in the holding area that slows down the parliament, or exit wheels, whatever it is, all day, every day. If I have to deal with that, I don't think you care about me or the work. And if you don't care, I don't care. Ooh. And now we've got real disengagement. They don't quit, right? People don't necessarily quit. They stay and they quit. That's that whole quiet. Yeah, they check out. It's the whole quiet quitting that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when we don't keep things maintained, or that we don't care enough to fix it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's for one moment here, Tom, that quiet quitting is kind of a buzzword now, right?
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
From the dairy perspective.
Yeah. So like, people have bills to pay, right? So they're not going to just quit and go find another job. Although they can, it's pretty easy in the dairy world. They can go right down the road and find another job. Maybe even make more money for the neighbor because they're just as desperate. But for the people who are comfortable where they live, their kids are where they're at, whatever it is, they don't want to necessarily go to the next farm, or they know what's going on at the other farm. You know, the devil I know is better than the devil I don't. So they don't necessarily want to go to a different farm, but they don't want to work for you, proverbially. They don't want to work for their boss anymore because they don't feel respected, they don't feel appreciated. So now they no longer respect and take care of their boss's animals. So they show up every day. They go through the motions, and you get what you get. And now you start wondering, well, how are we, like, how is our treated pen so high right now? Why do we have all these infected navels? What's going on? And if you looked at the dynamic within the team, say, okay, it's pretty unhealthy. People don't care anymore. And that's what we're getting. And that's the whole, how do we get a number on the disengaged employee? Look across the herd results. I mean, things that don't make sense because, well, we have iodine back in maturity. We have straw. We have everything to do it right. So how are we not doing it right? Why do we get results that say we're not doing it right? When we give all the tools and we have time and we have enough people and we have the people who are doing it just don't care.
Yeah.
And that's what costs real money.
And that's such a good point, Tom. And so, like, getting back to your two simple words, fix it, right? You walk us through an example of a dairy situation you've been in where you've seen that, hey, one of the problems leading to disengagement with employees and some of this quiet quitting was that there were things that made their job really hard, things that were broken and were going unrepaired. And what happened, what was the process and what happened with using that fix-it mentality to get a different results?
Well, when I think of how we've approached that at a couple of farms, two different things. Monthly meetings is always, I think, a great idea. If you're not doing monthly meetings, it's just, if it's anything more of a duration between meetings, it's too much. Anything less, I think it might be meeting overkill. But at a monthly meeting, what we typically do is we meet in the office, talk about all that other stuff. But then when it's a nice day, maybe it's a little too late in the season now here in Wisconsin and the Midwest, we pick a nice day and go on a maintenance walk. So we leave the office space, we leave where like the break room where we're always doing our meetings, and we literally just grab a notebook and start in the parlor, work our way through the milk house, start heading to the free stalls, through maternity, and we literally stop at each spot and say, all right, what's broken? And guys would start like pointing this, and they'd start showing you. So like we don't have to go through the charades or like trying to explain exactly which headlock or which whatever. So like we literally go through, see it. The owner or manager would quickly see exactly what they're talking about because they're disconnected from the day to day because they're not doing those jobs. They're focused on other stuff. So we would literally go through the farm step by step, making a list of all things that need to be repaired. And then from there, it's just a matter of, okay, what can we do quickly? What can we do cheaply? What can we actually do? Because there's a number of things like we're not buying a whole new whatever, new skid steer because of this. So there are budget constraints, right? That's one way, the maintenance walk, super helpful. The other one, this is for every meeting. Like if you're doing employee meetings, team meetings, what I like to do is, okay, we start with the agenda that the owner or the management team has, because those are the things that they identify that definitely need to be addressed. At the end, though, because the workers, okay, let me take a step back. Workers come in with one agenda. It's everything on their minds, right? And they want to like, hey, I've got an issue with this, or this is going on and nobody's addressing it. So I coach that process through like, okay, guys, we're going to go through this list. There's like 5-10 things that we have to talk about. And at the very end, you guys get the last word with anything that needs to be addressed, like broken, replaced, whatever things that are based on your mind. So instead of jumping all over the place with all these haphazard requests and issues, they know that they get the last word. And then I also remind like, hey guys, if you have anything like at the house, because a lot of these guys have housing, which is a whole other reason to fix things. Because if you want to have an employee mess with their stuff, if you want to have the employee upset because they go home to a wife or a husband who's upset, don't fix the stuff at home either, because that's a whole nother level of messy. But we manage the meeting to say, okay, let's leave that to the end. Let's leave that to the end. We can get through all the things that are important, but we never are going to ignore the stuff at the end. And then at the end, they actually do get the last word. And the manager's sitting right there as I'm going through the list, writing it all down and relaying exactly what's being said. And I'm thinking of this one dairy in particular, the owner sitting in his chair, wearing his office, kind of a big office around the conference table. And at the very end, we go through that list and goes, okay, that I can get done probably tomorrow. All right, this one is going to probably take a few weeks because I'm going to have to call the dealership or I'm going to have to get a welder in. So the guys actually hear the interaction where the owner's at, where the manager's at, thinking this through. And then here's the best part. He did it. He followed through. And like by the next meeting, almost everything was fixed. But within days, hours, most of it was fixed. So those workers, guess who followed routines? Guess who did their work? The people who saw that the owner actually had their back on the stuff that mattered to them. It's fun. And the stability. I mean, like, I'm thinking the same dairy, maybe one person every 6 months, every year, but the turnover, because those guys got it. Like, that boss, he might not be easygoing all the time, but he's got her back.
Yeah. So really, in essence, we're doing two things here. We're calling out what needs to be fixed and taking care of it, but sending a greater message from the top down that, hey, we'll take care of this and we'll take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's stuff that matters to them. You know, it's nice to do like the give some free hats or here's some food or here's whatever. But this is the thing. It's like we do these pizza parties and we do these like nice meals. But what I've seen a lot of these dairies is workers still bring their own food that day and heat up their own. Like, so they'd rather eat the food from home than the burgers from the gas station or the pizza from the gas station, whatever it is. Not that they'll eat it, but what they really want, what they really got it is just take care of my work. I struggle for 12 hours every day in the cold and the heat and the wind and whatever. Just make it easier for me, please. Show me you care. That's what they want.
Yeah. And so, Tom, what I'm hearing from you is this, the fix-it model, like how to implement that. You mentioned a couple of ways through having, at the core, regular meetings, right? So monthly meetings that allow you the opportunity to take a maintenance walk and to really look or ask questions, look, listen, see where the challenges are coming up within the operations that employees are doing every day. Take note. And then, have that action plan for fixing it. But then the other thing you talked about too with the meetings is setting an expectation that at the end of the meeting is when employees can bring forward their concerns, the things that need to be fixed, and making it known to them that, hey, when we have these meetings, it's not just about, updates and telling you our expectations, but really, it's also setting the expectation for employees that they will have the opportunity to have their voices heard in such a way that it improves their morale, their pride in their work, and 100%. And gives us opportunity to also talk about how what they're bringing up will be resolved, as you said. Having that conversation with ownership and management, saying, okay, here's how we can approach this problem that you pointed out. Here's our expectations for timeline for doing it.
Yeah.
And so, here again, hard to quantify, but if you could put some sort of, results or, impact around this system implemented over time and what it can do for a dairy, what does that look like?
Yeah, again, that's a tough one. I don't really know how to give that clear of an answer. For me, it's what it does is it reinforces the quid pro quo of life of business. Like, I'll do this, you do this, because a lot of workers come to the workplace with that idea. Like, I'm going to give you my time, you're going to give me my money. It's a transactional thing. Mm-hmm. So, and now it's okay. I don't just want your time. I need the quality work. Okay, so like, I'm going to give you the money, but this is what I really need. The expectation isn't just to show up and do the job, just to check it off. Right? So when they see that, okay, I asked for stuff, he took care of it. I did this, she did this. As that relationship goes in the workplace, it's like it's not falling on deaf ears. I think the worst thing is this: nobody likes to be ignored. It feels like disrespect. Mm. So if my questions, my requests, my issues are ignored, I feel like you don't respect me. So that alone, like literally disrespectful, and we've all been in those places because we're in a hurry or we had a bad day and took it out on the wrong person. But every time we do that, and I'm guilty too, but when we show any sort of disregard or disrespect or any kind of like, that's not a big deal, we're going to lose that person altogether. So that's where I think that's where we lose the whole thing, because all the things on our protocol boards or our SOP binders, like, it doesn't matter anymore because people feel like you don't care about me. And it's just, that's what it's all set up at. It's that I'll take care of you, you take care of me. And when that relationship is strong, the work gets done. And to have that avenue, that place where in the meetings, it's an avenue for communication. It's an outlet for people to have like, okay, I'm going to bring this to the boss every day because I know on the third Thursday of this month and every month, I can always bring this in an easy format and it gets taken care of.
Yeah.
And they get it. Like, it works.
And
it works.
And that builds that trust factor, right?
100%. And that's what it's really built. I mean, all relationships are built around trust. I mean, we have expectations for each other, and we trust that some people are going to actually follow through and other people won't. And that's, we know who's who. And there are certain bosses at certain places that are really are held in high regard because they do that, they follow through, and others, like, I don't even bother. I don't bother. And I could tell stories on that, but I'll spare you.
But you get a good feel when you walk into a dairy of what the culture is, and you can see pretty quickly if those little things are being taken care of or not.
Yeah, and that's about leadership. At that point, like, you can walk in and get the vibe, and that's from top down. You can feel it.
Yeah. So there are so many managers that know that they need to do something, right? Because what they're experiencing, how this is showing up for them, are the things that you've laid out. Maybe it's protocol drift, and maybe it's people just not showing up and not having that extra ambition to go the extra mile, and things just not getting done right. But a lot of people recognize these things within their systems, and you've outlined some things that they can do, but they still maybe struggle with, how can I start now? Like, maybe we have a monthly meeting, but it's 3 weeks from now. Yeah. What can I do today? What's the thing that they can walk away from listening to this podcast today, Tom, from you as the dairy coach? What's the action plan for starting now?
The quick, easy thing is just schedule a maintenance walk. It's winter's upon us. I mean, if you're listening now, it's just shy of November. Before everything gets cold and gets really hard to fix stuff, or really nobody wants to be doing this in the frozen fingers, do the maintenance walk now. Don't just get the one lead guy to do a maintenance walk, because that's no buy-in. Like, all that does is say, he always or she always picks the one manager and says, all right, let's go do this. As a manager, you've got to engage people, right? And it's the middle of the room that needs to be moved. We know our good people are going to be our good people because they prove it time and time again. The people on the laggers at the back, they probably don't really care anyway. They'd skip the meeting just because they're so disengaged. It's the people in the middle. If we don't include them, they just fall back and back and back. Mm-hmm. So if we can get the core group of people to go do a maintenance walk and have a voice, that's what it really boils down to. It's like, hey, I'm listening and I'm taking notes. And when they see that their manager, that she's writing things down as they're saying stuff, they get it. This matters. My voice matters. My input matters. And then when you follow through and actually do it, get those things fixed, order those parts, change out the towels that are all crusty and rolled up, they see that you care.
Yeah. And so that fix it model, that fix it it's not just a model, it's a mentality, really, right? Yeah. And what you're saying is that if there's some things on your dairy that could go a little bit better, just do it now. Yeah. Just take a few of those few people, and not just, like you said, not just your top people on the team, but some of the ones that are more in the middle of the room that maybe you don't have as much frequent interaction with, and spend that time, invest the time in taking that walk. And I mean, what is it? What would you say? An hour, half hour? Is there a magic time frame?
It depends on how much stuff's broken. I mean, it might be 30 minutes. It's a quick walkthrough. Like, everything's good, and here's something. Yeah. I've done walkthroughs where it's been really painless. Like, we just walk through, we find a couple fans that need to be fixed or a headlock, and then it's like other places like, we should have done this years ago, because there's a lot of stuff built up. And on that note, let me chime in with this, the cynic in me. And over the years, I've become a bit of a cynic. There's got to be somebody right now listening saying, but seriously, we're going to fix it every day because these guys break stuff all the time. And I get that. But how do we then change that conversation in accountability? Because if we say, look, guys, we are going to fix it, we're going to prove it to you, we are proving it to you, we're fixing stuff. And if you're breaking it all the time, it changes what we can do. So then now, at least, based on our actions to say we're going to fix things and make things work for you, now you're on the hook, because we're not like kicking it down the road. We're not ignoring it anymore. Now you're on the hook to do your part. So now, if nothing else, now you've got some more skin in the game, or they've got more skin in the game to say, look, we got it. We'll do it. Yeah. But now it's up to you to take care of it, because we're not going to do this every 3 days. And then we start getting creative as far as like each team gets their own toolbox, and then they're responsible. Like the night shift is responsible for their tools, and the maternity team is responsible. And like when that toolbox from Home Depot is empty, well then just go buy another $50 worth of tools and take it out of the team, right? So like, all right, guys, it's gonna cost an hour for everybody to replenish your toolbox. I don't care who all lost it, but here's your new tools. There's an hour off your check. Now, there might be some employment law things that need to be checked out on that, but this whole conversation, we shift it, brings accountability back to the team. And say, look, because we're not going to just keep spending time and money if you're not going to do your part and taking care of it. Yeah. So we can, for the cynics listening, we can start talking about accountability from the people who are requesting these fixes.
Yeah. And so, again, it's that top-down, approach, right? Is that if you're holding yourself accountable as a leader for having these regular conversations, and then that next level that you step in with is the accountability on the individual basis and holding people to that. And again, going back to the expectations. Yeah, way easier said than done. Right. But you know what? If there's, like you said, a couple of things that people can do and think about and start now and not wait to start to make a difference. These are some of the simplest things, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the easiest way to engage your team without having to spend a ton of money on personality tests and like, what are we doing wrong? These 360 questionnaires, like literally, we're all pretty simple. Just take care of the stuff I need. Yeah. Just fix. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like my cell phone, I remember back in the day, like I just wish it would make a phone call. All these nice new things that the phone can do, but if we just not drop a call, like the simple stuff, right? Yeah. And when it comes to our teams, they're not asking for a lot. Just the stuff I have to do every day. Don't make it harder.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Total sense. And so, Tom, what is the challenge that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
Get it done. Schedule it. Say, all right, this is the day that's most free in our schedule, because we've got herd check on Tuesday, we've got a hoof trimmer coming Wednesday. So this Thursday, we're going to make sure everybody knows that we're going to do this maintenance walk, and we need your input. Schedule it. And just get it done, and you'll start seeing that this will move the needle. Just get it scheduled.
And that's it. Yes. And to reiterate your point, that is what will move the needle. Right. So getting back to the scheduling of meetings and expectation setting for what happens in those meetings as far as having the maintenance walks or building in that expectation that each employee will have the opportunity to bring their voices to the table at the end of that meeting, and then the plan to follow up and fix it. Yeah. Not just fix it and promise it will be fixed, but actually deliver on the promise.
I'm glad you brought that up, Peggy, because if we do all of the steps but follow through, then everything looks like BS. And the workers will be like, don't fall for this again, because they're going to bring this back. And like, we've heard this before. So if the follow through doesn't happen, don't even start. Honestly, because you're going to set yourself up for more of an negative impact by not doing what you said you would, than just not even saying anything at all. Honestly, that's a good point.
Well, this is great, Tom. Thank you for sharing the fix-it philosophy and the impact that it can have by starting to implement it right away, not waiting, and making it a part of the routine for the dairy, and then being able, what happened if you did this for 6 months? What is possible?
It's unreal when you see people start realizing that they are seen and heard. It's such a change. And when you think of the typical laborer, they're kind of like the linemen of football. Like their names are never in the paper. Nobody ever gives accolades to the people who are down in the trenches. But all of a sudden, the people in the trenches are being prioritized and being paid attention to. That changes the game at dairy farming. And let's be honest, almost everybody's in the trenches. So like everybody feels like, hey, how many milkers get taken off site for lunch? I know some farms do that, but how many times do we make a real point to say you're our priority? And this shows them through action that they've had.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is great stuff, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing the magic of the words fix it, and of all the two simple words that we might think could be the difference makers. Fix it. Say it, follow through, and put it into action.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you for sharing your insights and your experience, 20 plus experience as
Getting
the
old.
dairy coach.
We're getting old.
Yes.
22 years.
22 years? Yeah.
Never thought I'd be here, and here I am, 22 years later.
22 years. Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going as the dairy coach and as really one of our industry's most renowned experts in employee management. And that's why you travel across the country doing this stuff. So we're lucky that we could capture you here for a few minutes today, Tom, to share this. And as we wrap up our podcast, so one of the things we do with the Up Level Dairy Podcast is the Up Level 5, and these are 5 questions that provoke your next level of performance. So we get to know you a little bit better, not just Tom as the dairy coach, but Tom as Tom.
Yeah. So these are the hard questions.
These are the hard questions.
Oh,
are you ready to have some fun?
Sure.
All right. Question number 1. What does success look like for you?
That's tough. It's changed. 20 years ago, it looked like financial success. And now 20 years later, as you see people come and go in your life, success looks very different. And it's more, success is more about excellence, bringing excellence every day, because not every day is going to be successful. From a financial standpoint is what I've found. For me, it's all about seeking excellence. And if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to lose, right? But I brought my best. And that's, for me, I brought my best to the people who turn to me, look to me for some sort of help because they had issues that they needed to work through, or they just have a problem on the farm that needs to be solved. And let's face it, when we work 12-hour days, that is our platform for life. There's people out there doing God's work in different things. And here we are in the dairy industry, I'll say doing God's work, but in such little ways, but make big ripple impacts and effects across the people we serve. So if I can be successful today, it's because I brought my best, and I was trying to be excellent in all that I did.
Yeah, that's great, Tom. All right, question number 2 for you. In 3 words, how do you want to show up each day?
All right. Since I had such a long answer for the first one, I'll do 2 words. All in. All in. I'm going to be all in all the time.
Those are good ones.
I take that over the top. Sometimes all in goes over the top. But if I'm going to be remembered for something, I hope people know that I care, right? And that I really care. There's some words I can't use on this podcast, but I do give, I care. And I love working with people who are passionate about what they do. And every day we get a chance to do something we love. And I'm all in.
Yeah. Those are good words. All right. Who are 2 or 3 of the thought leaders or influencers that you follow?
Sure. So all writers, all authors, because thought leaders tend to write it down, right?
Yeah.
Donald Miller.
Yes. One of our mutual favorites. Yes.
Top of the list. Tom Peters goes back to the 80s, In Search of Excellence. He's the guy who coined, he and his co-author, Management by Walking Around. But Tom Peters, if you can catch a book, he's got some 150 things you could do, 147 things. He's all about excellence. His big thing is if not excellence, then what? If not now, then what? And he's just such a voice of clarity in kind of a loud, noisy world. As a business thought leader, I love his work. The third person who I've always kind of been reading and following is Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's top notch. Yes. So that's the softer side of business. It's really getting in touch with the humanity of for yourself.
Yeah.
And how you connect with other people.
Yeah.
And I've got a long ways to go when it comes to Brene Brown, but I'm doing the work.
Yeah. Well, good for you. And that's a beautiful mix of, you've got marketing and business,
the operations,
and then, like you said, humanity. And really, that's what you do and who you are. With
her big thing is vulnerability. And if we can't get real with each other, I'd like to think that everywhere I've worked, everywhere I've been, people say, well, that guy's real. Even if I don't like him, at least he was real. There's no BS. There's no pretentiousness. I got I got the real deal. I got the real guy. And then I don't have to apologize for maybe I have to apologize for being too real, but I don't have to apologize for not being me. right? So
yeah. Well, I think we're lucky because we know we got the real deal today.
Yep.
Question number 4. What words do you live by?
Yeah, I've got it in calligraphy in my house. It's Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, much is expected.
Mm.
And nothing to do with money, right? It's all the gifts that we have. And the people that I've come in contact with in all walks of life, so many gifts. Like, we're all walking around with so many unique gifts, and there's one purpose for it. It's not to keep them. It's to share them. It's to use them. It's to wear them out before we're gone. And if I can do that, I've done my mission.
What do you think your gift is? How do you define your own gift?
I'm still working on that. I'm not sure. I like to think that one of the things I do with work, and I'm going to use work again because then I can hide behind the work, is help people reach their potential. I think so many of us, like, we just need a little more encouragement. We just need somebody to, like, give us a chance. And so I don't know. Maybe my gift is to help people take that next, to the point of up level, like take that next step to get it to that next level, so they can to help them help themselves grow to become the best version of themselves.
And for our listeners' purposes here, Tom, you were one of the first people I reached out to when I started the Up Level Dairy podcast, and it was for that very reason, because I know you have a heart to serve others in a big way, and that is the core and foundation of Up Level Dairy, is to be able to help other people take that next step and provide a path and some action points to be that best version of themselves. And what happens when we're the best version of ourselves? What's the ripple effect, right?
Yeah, I mean, iron sharpens iron. Like, when I'm working around people who are doing their best and giving their best and becoming that next version, the best version, I have to measure up. Like, I have to do my part, because I don't want to be left behind in that journey, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. All right. So on that note, Up Level 5, question number 5.
See the hard one.
Yes. What is your next personal up level? What's the area of life that you are looking to take to the next level, Tom?
20 years ago, I was kind of fun. Like, I did fun stuff. I was spontaneous. I would do stuff. Then I got kind of stuck in this work mode. So I think it's on a personal level. I think it was Helen Keller who said, life's either a daring adventure or nothing at all. And so personally, I want to start living different. Like, I want to put more emphasis on the relationships that I've kind of ignored as I've been so busy working and trying to build something that, in the end, not to be morose, but it doesn't matter. Like, all this stuff, like, I lost my dad a couple of years ago. Like, you see when somebody goes, everything they built stays behind. So, like, to make it real, it's all about the relationships. And there's always a trade-off, right? With sacrifice. And my energy goes into work, and then by nature, it doesn't go where it should. And those relationships that's what I need to do. That's like the next. So the last 20 years were about trying to build a business. The next 20 years are going to be about building relationships. That's where I'm at.
That's good stuff, Tom. Yeah. And thank you for leaning into the vulnerability piece that you called out through Brene Brown to really share that deep level. And one of my favorite quotes, and something I come back to as a compass for Up Level Dairy, is from Brendan Bouchard, and it's in one of his books, and it says this: your next level of performance is in your next level of truth. And to me, that means getting really honest with ourselves about the areas that we can not just grow in, but really take ownership of that growth. And so for you in that relationship piece, thank you for sharing, what that means to you. So and thank you again for being our guest here on the Up Level Dairy Podcast.